Hey everyone, here is the promised video tour of my home aquaponics system. I just wanted to show you guys around a bit before it got dark, so I'll just explain, what everything is, how it works, and how it kind of all works together, I guess. Here we have the fish. Oh, that just fell. This thing is broken, I need to fix it. These are mostly Mozambique tilapia. I have a couple goldfish in here, but they're good for eating. So in a couple months, they should be large enough for me to actually harvest and eat, maybe sometime in the late spring. So that's pretty cool. Like, aside from being able to grow all these plants on this system, I'm able to harvest fish every once in a while and have a fish fry. So that's kind of the neat thing about aquaponics. Just from a practical standpoint, you can cultivate fish and vegetables at the same time. Generally speaking, you get a lot more plants than you do fish. Anyways, these are the Zipgrow towers. They're made by Bright Agritech. I work for a non-profit here out of Los Angeles that has a large inventory of these. They were able to donate a couple of them to me. I really appreciate that because they work pretty well for aquaponics. So this media you see in here, this is actually the tower of bok choy that I just harvested. So this media is made out of downcycled plastic water bottles. So it's like the plastic from plastic water bottles that's been spun into these little fibers, I guess. And so it's like kind of a woven plastic mesh like pond filter media. It's essentially the same thing, and you can use it as like a media for a biofilter. And inside in this slot, this space that you see right here, this gap between the two halves of the insert, the media insert as we call them, is where the plants go. So you can see the old decaying plant material that was in here before, and then I just pretty much rip the inserts open. They come out and they open like a book, just pull everything out, rinse them down, and then replant with fresh plugs. Here we have summer crisp lettuce. This is a muir type, and this is just lacinato kale. I've been picking off of this one. The romaines went in more recently, and here's the parsley. Normally the parsley does exceedingly well, but I've been having some issues for some reason. I think this could be because they're transplants. I've been having difficulty getting my seedlings to start lately because of the weather. It's been between kind of really hot, 90 degrees, and then now it's suddenly cold and rainy, so that's California for you. So I've been having issues with seedlings because I don't have an indoor setup going yet. This one looks like it took. So this is an example of a plant that takes, I guess, but the other ones are not doing so hot. Peppers are still going as well. I just harvested a couple bell peppers. These peppers are actually an experiment. So I have heard of people growing peppers in these towers before, but generally they're not fruiting crops. So I figured I might as well give it a whirl. And as you can see, I do have some habaneros here. I harvested a ton of these. Some banana peppers are still hanging up there, and the jalapeno has a bunch on it. But it's, in my opinion, just not practical from this little experiment of doing peppers in these towers. But it does work. You can do it. I would say for fruiting crops, the one that really does work in these towers is strawberries. And the strawberries that you can grow this way are pretty fantastic. And then, we just have our companion plants. So these keep the bugs away. We got marigolds, the French variety, and nasturtium. I have a little variegated plant that I had to cut back, so I'm hoping that little guy grows back. Then we got rosemary, thyme, and oregano. So those are our herbs. Moving over to the media bed, very similar to just like a bed that's raised off of the ground, like a container, except it's filled with this expanded clay media. So it's made in these giant rotary kilns from the special clay, and it's very porous and it's very light, so you can see I can just kind of throw it around and pick it up. It's super light, and it's great because it has a lot of surface area for something you could directly plant in, and you get lots of air gaps, which is great for the root and oxygen availability. So we have chives right here, we have celery, and we have some more nasturtiums. And then in the back, I've been trying to get some sugar snap peas started. One of these is actually a magnolia pea, the purple variety, so I'm pretty excited for those as well. I just built a little trellis out of a post that I got at Home Depot, and I've been doing stringing garden twine as the plants grow. Don't want to bug the neighbors too much with a monstrosity of a trellis that I tried to build before, but that was a bit of a problem, unfortunately. But yeah, so this is the media bed. I've been trying to get some cilantro started here too, but something, as you can see, has been eating my plants, and I don't know what it is yet. I've been trying to figure that out. But yeah, anyways, so right here is the bell siphon. So a bell siphon is an automatic siphon device that will cause a siphon in the media bed as it fills up with water when it gets to a certain water height. And then all of the water is just pulled back down into the sump tank right here, which also receives outflow from the fish tank. So basically this bell siphon will float to the top, as I said. It'll drain back down when the siphon initiates, and then air gets caught in the bottom of the bell right here, the bell that's inside. You can see it right there. As the water level gets towards the bottom, it breaks the siphon and it starts again. So this thing will fire like every couple minutes. I think it's starting to get close, so I'll make sure to show you guys. when the bell siphon fires. And yeah, so this is the media bed, and it kind of receives the excess flow from the towers up here. I'll walk you through the plumbing in a minute. Yeah, so that's the media bed, and then we have the nursery table. These guys are actually going to be the ones that are going to be going in to this tower today. These bok choys. This is just like plants that I got from a nursery. You can transfer from soil to aquaponics. It just takes a little bit longer for the plants to get established. Your success rate is lower, as you can see right here, because it's a huge shock to the roots when you go from soil to aquaponics, but oftentimes the plants do take just fine. But more often I use starter plugs. So here we have some rockwool plugs that have a couple different lettuce varieties and some kale. And this is actually going to be used for research, so I'm saving these. Then I got some Brussels sprouts. This is a cocoa vermiculite mix that's also great for aquaponic seed starting since it's inert, doesn't really contain nutrients. And then we just have these bonded plugs that we have a ton of at my work. And I've been, as you can see, limited success with the seedlings right now, but normally my germination rates are in excess of 90%. And then more kale, and then just additional seedlings. So yeah, and those are the 3 different grow modules of the system. So we have the towers right there, we have the media bed, and we have the seedling table. So the sump tank is kind of the backbone of the system. It's actually where all the action happens, not the fish tank. So the pumps are in the sump tank, and you can see one line going up right here for the filter modules, which I'll get to in a second. And then this is for the grow modules, the media bed, and the towers, that is. And then there goes the siphon, see? And then there's a pump down here for the seedling table that's set to a timer to trigger twice per day. Oh, there goes the siphon. So yeah, that's the siphon getting to the top and just evacuating all the water out of the bed. And as the water evacuates, air actually gets sucked in, so you get nutrient-rich fish poop water from the fish tank in the system, and you get air from the atmosphere. So the growth rate can be pretty exceptional in these media beds. Like the peas have just been going crazy. They took really well. And this nasturtium was a tiny little seedling that I had not really doing anything for like a month, and I just plop it in there and it gets going. You know, it's pretty great. So yeah, that is the sump tank and the bell siphon draining. And I'll take you guys around to the filters in the back, which are on the filter loop. Showed you guys that down there. 3 different loops: towers and media bed, filters, and the seedling table. So here we have the moving bed bioreactor, and this type of filter is commonly used for large aquariums and ponds. I DIY'd this, but it uses this plastic media, you know, that has a very high specific surface area. So lots of surface area for the volume of media that I'm using. There's a cubic foot in here right now. And essentially, the nitrifying bacteria that process the ammonia and the fish waste live on these little pieces of media that just get tossed around by this giant air stone. It's a 9-inch air stone, and it causes the bacterial colonies to grow like crazy and metabolize the fish waste like crazy. So this type of filter is actually more efficient than, you know, just your standard pond filter that uses filter pads. So this thing is great. It also can provide a measurable degree of oxygen to the system in general. Let's start going over the swirl filter. So, you know, it just depends on your stocking density, how many fish you have. This system's pretty well stocked right now, and it'll be very well stocked when the fish are actually growing out. They're gonna maybe even double in length. Tilapia, they grow pretty fast. I actually put these guys in back in June when they were about less than 1 inch long. Yeah, essentially, just depending on how many fish you have in the tank, it can either be an oxygen source or an oxygen sink, because we're very worried about maintaining dissolved oxygen levels in aquaponics. So then we have the swirl filter, and this is our solids filter. So it takes the excess solids from the fish waste and just essentially settles them out into the bottom of this giant drum. There is an elbow at the bottom, you can kind of see it, that directs the inflow from the filter loop in a vortex motion. And so eventually all the solid particles get pulled to the center very slowly, and they settle out. The retention time in this filter is quite long. Ideally, it should be like 30 to 60 minutes or something like that. And then the clean filtered water is returned to the tank, free of solids here, and completely nitrified and ammonia removed here. That's kind of the full loop of the system. Then from these pipes right here, they're just stand pipes that go to the bottom of the tank and pick up all the solids from the bottom through suction. It just goes back down into the sump tank right here, and that's like the complete loop, essentially. Same thing for the towers. So you have the delivery right here, and there's a manifold at top that distributes water. The water flows back down through the bottom of the towers into the fish tank, and then the excess flow is diverted to the media bed. And so that's how that works. And you know, I tried to design the system to fit a pretty small space. Up here, you know, in my backyard, I have some other plants right here. I just want to get a lot of production and like variety of crops out of this small space. And so the towers are really good for leafy greens, as you can see. You can do some other stuff in there. The rosemary was an experiment too, and it's working quite well. But mainly your smaller plants here, then your big fruiting plants here. And this is where I had tomatoes in the summer, and the tomatoes just like went crazy. Like they just grew straight up the trellis and started bushing out on the top, literally like within a month and a half of transplanting the seedlings. It was crazy. And then they just went all over the place, but I got quite a bit of cherry tomatoes out of that. I also had some eggplants in here. Eggplants were fantastic, and also zucchini. Zucchini were fantastic. But yeah, so that's my aquaponics system. Aquaponics is a really cool way to grow food, you know, no soil involved, as you can see, but the main nutrient source is the fish waste, so the effluent produced by the fish. And then that is processed by beneficial microbes that live in the system into plant available nutrients in like a recirculating fashion, so that all the water is essentially recycled. And the effluent from the soil filter, when I drain it, can be used to water my potted plants, and it's nutrient rich water. A couple additional things: I have this water coming from an RO filter, the water that goes into the system. It's purified to remove chloramine in the LA City tap water, and also get rid of the alkalinity. And I also have a heater on here right now, 800 watts. It's barely pulling its weight. We had a low of 37 a couple days ago, and I was very concerned for my fish. The water temperature got down to 54, which is not great for tilapia. They'll die below 50. So I was a bit worried there that I'd lose my fish, but I just kind of let it go, see what happened, to see what the system can handle. Yeah, that's kind of recent happenings with my system. Yeah, again, the bok choy is going in here. I'm gonna start getting more lettuce in after these are done, and I'm gonna move the peppers over to a warmer climate at work. And then I'm gonna do some more greens, probably some spinach or something like that, maybe more Asian greens. So yeah, that's my system. Thank you for joining me on this video tour. I know it's a bit long, but a lot to cover. There's so much that goes into this small space to make everything tick, and a lot of good engineering that goes into it. Yeah, that's my system. I wish more people do aquaponics. It's a great way to grow food. It's very water efficient, very input efficient, and I'd like to see more people doing this. So I'm hopeful that I can help turn more people onto this, and that's where you guys come in. So I wanted to make a video tour for you guys. Alright, that's about it, and thank you again for watching.